Ready to roll.
Good evening, everybody. It's our favorite night of the year, JAB meeting. We don't normally have these, but a couple of announcements, and then we do have an action item. First of all, Miss Kay's third grade class at Orchard Hill made some cards for the board.
Oh.
There's 5 cards here, so I'll pass some out and everybody can kind of look at them, and maybe we can keep them at the district office or something, Denise, but there's a litlittle messages in there, and then all the kids signed it, so. It's really good. Yeah, my kids signed it too. I didn't even put her up to that.
Good things they wrote.
Yeah, there's cute stuff in there, yeah. And then we do have a action item. We have a board member development funds request. And in case you're wondering, we have $13,000 left in our board development fund for this year still, so we're doing pretty good on that, so.
How much do we have? Sorry.
13,000
Is that for school year or for?
for fiscal year,
Oh.
yeah.
What's the total amount?
I think, what's the budgeted amount? What?
I think we increased it to like 25,000.
Yeah, that includes
Yeah.
OSBA.
Yeah.
We'll probably use some of that for summer board if we want to go there.
Summer board later next fiscal year though.
Oh, true,
And
yeah.
the national conference, it's too late to do DC, but the national conference is in San Antonio.
Okay.
If anyone's interested in that, I don't know what the cost is.
Yeah.
There's also a PACE day coming up. Those are the only two that are popping in my head, but I will probably know more after I go to OSBA this weekend. I'll make some notes.
Great.
San Antonio.
Yeah, it's the
Hasn't
national,
been there. What is it?
it's the national conference and it's really good.
Great. All right, so do I have a motion for this request?
I never saw that.
In there.
I apologize. I downloaded 4 books. I did not see
There's a.
the. Okay,
Does anybody need a copy of the request? It is in board book, but
I saw it. No, I didn't, for some reason, I didn't see it in board book. I apologize.
it says.
It probably is. Sometimes I download before it's up on board book or something, so my apologies.
I would make a motion. I move to approve the board development funds request.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Diana and Rick. Discussion?
Excited to hear back.
I know you attended last year. I don't know if you wanted to speak about it at all, Nancy.
OALA is the Oregon Administrator Leadership Association. No, Latino Association. Oh my gosh. Small, what is it called? I have so many acronyms in my little brain here. It's an opportunity for Latino administrators to get together and learn and have a focus. There's a lot of, actually, there's not very many opportunities for this particular population to get together and learn and share about the very similar experiences that people experience as a person of color in leadership, especially in school systems. So it's a wonderful way to get together, support, grow, learn. There's usually really inspiring speakers, and there's opportunities for networking and connecting. And I think it's really critical, especially in these times that we're seeing an increased attack in our immigrant populations within the school systems.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Diana,
Yes.
Nancy?
I abstain.
Yes.
Okay. Rick?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
I vote yes. I don't need to hammer that. Okay. Just looking for opportunities. We're gonna move to our presentations. Who's doing the introduction? Are you doing the introduction? Sure. Okay, great. Okay, Brent, take it away.
You bet. I'm Chair Campbell. This is obviously an annual event for our administrative team, and our partners at Armadillo, to kind of share information and with the board. And it's one of the best meetings of the year to really kind of dig in and show some data and show things that are going on in our school, and dive deeper into kind of the operations of the school. So excited for the presentations today, and our team is ready. So whenever you want to get started.
Great. We'll get started now with Armadillo.
I gotta make things a microphone, right?
Nope, well, actually,
You have to use
yeah.
one of those microphones. Yeah, which one?
It's just for the folks on Zoom so they can hear you.
You want to click it? All the folks on.
We go, yeah, we typically go viral after the fact.
So I was.
Mhm.
I think I'm one of the few that listen to random school board meetings.
Yeah.
online.
Yes.
And tell how hard it is to hear.
Airing tonight on channel 400 from 2 AM.
People would. It's my entertainment when I go to missions.
Be healthy out there. There we are, Armadillo Community Charter School, formerly ACI, going on 3 years of ACCS now. We're still called ACI, don't you know? Okay. All right, our main focus has not changed since I've been here or before that. It's creating a sense of safety, significance, and belonging for all our students. As you can see, we do that with Spirit Days, and our students even bring surfboards. They carried those to every single class throughout the day. Pretty impressive. All right, so here are some stats for y'all. So some great things. Our general ADM is staying pretty current, pretty steady there. In the mid-70s, we're actually going up to 78 as of Tuesday. We'll have some more students, so this is a little outdated. So far, I just did some updated numbers today too. So far, instead of 92 unique students through the door, we've seen 100 unique students. 47% of those are returning students to us. And 5% are from Phoenix High School. 30 of those 100 are from the Phoenix Town School District. So we're actually pulling most of our students, not from y'all. That's awesome, because that's our main goal, is to get out of the valley, out of Phoenix, and get the rest of the valley to know that we're here. And not take your kiddos because you're doing awesome at Phoenix High School. We don't want that. All right, I wanted to give a grade level breakdown, not a breakdown, because we are getting more. You can't see a lot of that. This 21% is our freshman, no, 16% is our freshmen, which is higher than we've ever had before. We've gone from 1 to 3 to 11 to now 17 freshmen that we are currently enrolling, which is great. I know. No, I don't know what happened. You know, technology. We have 21% are our sophomores. And then, of course, our juniors, seniors still remain our highest amounts with 66%. 84% of our students have been at ACCS less than 2 years, meaning they enrolled within the last 2 terms of last year or have enrolled this year for the first time. On that note, yeah, I'll go to graduation rate. Yeah, did not like when I sent this to you. All right, so our 2023 reported, that was reported for our 24-25 graduation rates, they went down. I'm not gonna lie to you. We did an experiment with having students on a flex program where we didn't see them very often. We saw them once a week and we kind of let them do their own thing. That did not work for our demographic, as we can see here. However, it did work for our 5th year graduates. We got up to 76%. So what we are reporting 24-25, what will be reported this next year is a 68% on-time graduation, which really helps Jen, who will not get up here with me, but is responsible for keeping all of our students under our credit retrieval, really pushing those graduations, making sure this human can get students to do things that no one else can. And so we are going to see 68% graduation on time in our next reporting. Our fifth years are 33% because we actually had a few less fifth years and 6 years than we had in previous years. And have another stat for y'all on that one. This year we have 31 possible graduates altogether. Two of those, two of three of our 6 years have already graduated for this year. So they are completers. One of our 2 fifth years has already graduated. And then we actually have one of 2 early graduates who are, have already finished. So we'll have 2 11th graders who are off to beauty school. Actually, both of them have decided to beauty school this year. I don't know where I am.
Sorry,
I'm gonna.
he's gonna pull up the PowerPoint. I'd say there's a PDF, maybe that's the problem.
The PDF is.
Sorry.
No worries.
Good question.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you calculate those? So how should we think about that, you know, difference between the 4-year and the 5-year?
Perfect question.
Yeah.
So everyone that's enrolled. That everyone that is enrolled, it as in their freshman cohort year gets calculated as a total student.
Okay.
So unless they transfer to a different school, if they are ours, like if they do a 10-day drop, they're still counted towards our graduation rates at the end of their 4th year.
Okay.
So that's the on-time graduation 4th year.
Mhm,
Then they do 5th year and 6th year are kind of grouped together as completers.
mhm,
So I like to pull them out because I want to know
mhm.
like how long it took them, what took them so long, when did we get them?
Yeah.
So of our students who graduated last year, we had 14 that counted as drops for us that we just could not find. But of those we had, you know. And then, like I said, we were trying a new program in that 23-24 school year. So the 5th, our on-time graduates, we're doing the 1 year, you know, we were trying the flex program, showing up once a week, doing a lot of phone calls with the person in charge of that program. They just like, they weren't pushed to finish.
Yeah.
However, a lot of them were on our GED program. And so those 5th and 6th years, that graduation rate that went up the next year, the completers, that 33% were students who actually went on to diplomas because we got rid of our GED. And so we switched them over to diplomas, which is better for them. We were able to get them at RCC after that and move forward in a different pathway.
So it's representative of the percentage of students who are go for a 5th year.
Yes.
What percentage of those complete?
Right.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
If not, just bring.
I have a question I can add.
Yeah.
Sorry, so you mentioned earlier, I'm not exactly sure, I think it was something like 40% returning.
Yeah.
I'm assuming some of them completed something. Can you tell a little bit more about like, did a lot of them complete something or where did they go?
Tell me more. A complete.
Well, you said something about we have 40% returning.
Oh, so that's
So-
of our freshmen through
Oh,
junior, like our entire population, not moved, like moved forward.
okay,
So they count as ours unless they transfer to another school.
but 60% left somewhere.
Right, so they either graduated or they transferred out.
Okay,
Right. And of of our students that are on our roster this year, 42% are.
okay, thank you.
Great, yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. I was a little
Like, what
confused.
happened to that?
Yeah.
They came back. No, the ones that were supposed to come back came back.
Okay.
Great question.
I have a question. The program that you said they were only meeting with them once.
Yeah.
When you changed it, how many times are they meeting now?
They come on campus 4 days a week. So we switch them back to 4 days a week. And then we also give our students the option to earn more asynchronous days. So we give students who have 80% or higher attendance throughout the month and are passing all their classes with a B or an A. We give them the opportunity to stay home and work from home 2 more days a week. Now, they can earn this once a month, they can lose it immediately. So we're always checking. So each of our students has a team leader who's in charge of them. And then Jen and I are also always checking. And so, like I said, we check once a month to see if they've met this requirement. Let them and their parent know, has to be a parent decision as well. And then we check once a week at the end of the week to see if they're keeping up. And we say, if you're not keeping up, we want to see you again because this isn't working. And it's actually been quite successful. Surprisingly, a lot of the students that have earned it have not taken it. They still show up 4 days a week, which is great.
And how many are enrolled with you, but also do some on campus here, some classes or?
We don't have any students currently that come to PHS. Oh, that is not true, sorry. Our sped students come on Monday to meet Mindy, the sped liaison, sped special. Down here for their service minutes on Monday. So our IEP students come and get their services on Mondays here. But they're not enrolled in any of the PHS classes.
What about extracurricular sports or drama or?
We haven't had any students take us up on that for that one. And because most of our students are out of district, they actually have to do sports with their home district. So we do have one that Russell used to, he doesn't anymore, he used to wrestle for Ashland because he lives in Ashland district. So we used to do that when he was. But he chose not to do that this year, he chose to focus back into school. A little, it's fun. Sorry.
Ready to just be garbage.
It's okay, I can explain it, I can explain the verbal. I apologize for the verbal. Okay, so one giant change that we made this year was our entire staff over the summer took PBL, which is project-based learning through PBL Works. And so we have big project, cross-curricular project blocks twice a week that last for 3 hours in the mornings. They are, like I said, cross-curricular, they're hands-on, they are based in real-world issues. The first one we did was a humongous success with our students. It was where they had to pick a social justice topic. They had to write a persuasive essay on why it was important, including research and citations. They had to build a box or a frame. One of them got creative, built a frame instead. They had to light that with LED lights. So they had to figure out the electricity and work through that. And then they also had to create a personalized, one-of-a-kind artwork to symbolize why their thing was important. As you can see, they did everything from cutting the boxes, nailing them together. And this frame over here, actually, that student chose to make their own stain and actually stained it with Oakwell stain. So it's like a 3-hour exploratory, awesome time where they just get to delve deep into something that's important to them. Second term that they are just wrapped up today was a food truck process. So they actually had to develop a food truck, write a business plan, do all the financials for it, and then pitch their idea to their teachers. And we had a few people from the restaurant industry actually come in and judge them as well. So really cool. All right. Some initiatives that we've started, some other ones besides PBL. We are doing a dual enrollment with RCC. So that's where a lot of our students, not a lot, 4 so far, who have taken up the task, are getting their extras. Right now we have 3 that are taking Psych 101. Super fun to hear that. And then we have 1 who wants to be a coder. So he's doing some coding. It's really great to have this happen because we have a very flexible schedule. So our students are able to get on the bus, go down to classes, and still get that dual enrollment. This is the first year that our students have taken us up on it. We've had this offering, so this is the first year they've taken us up. We do what is called Oregon Employability Skills rubric. It's embedded in every class. I brought it, so I'll hand it out so you want to see it. Sorry, over here. I brought you a copy. Our teachers were having trouble trying to relate to high schoolers why it was important that they show up and why they have a good attitude and why they join in class discussion. And so they came up with this rubric that is based on the Oregon employability skills that we can show students. They grade themselves and teachers grade them as well. And it really lets us all pile back into, we're preparing you for the future. Like, you're doing this so you're better for tomorrow. And this has helped all of our classes come together to really tell our students why they need to show up in an appropriate way and on time. We have a lot of internships going on. We have 3 students with the pollinator projects who are getting paid for their time in the community, doing awesome things like that. We are working with all kinds of outdoor riparian restoration, really just trying to get the kids out of the classroom and then get them into the community, let them know what's here, so they have awesome opportunities and know that it's here for them, they don't have to leave. And then, as we all know, attendance is a thing, especially in high school, because it's really hard to get that 17-year-old up in the morning and tell them why they need to go. So we've actually have been working with Soren as a data team, really delving into the story of our attendance and how we can do better. All right. The Southern Oregon Career Center, I just heard 2 days ago, is not continuing for a second year, which sucks because we make up 75% of their program right now. Our students don't really have this opportunity anywhere else, and so they were really excited. But our 3 11th graders who are in the program, we are working with RCC right now and La Clinica to see if we can kind of continue that for them in a different way. However, all 7 of our students will leave this year with a phlebotomy certification and credit towards RCC. So we were excited for this. If anybody knows of another program, we will take you up on it.
Why was it canceled? Was it funding?
They lost funding. Yeah, and we come back. I just wanted to post how much we like to get our kiddos out of the classroom. Really, really into it. When they were doing their food truck project, we took them down to the Rogue Valley Growers Market. They had to go talk to food truck professionals who agreed to talk to us ahead of time. We get them out to Pacifica. One of our students actually got to use the fire blowtorch gun. Hilarious pictures. Pride Parade, pollinator project on campus. Just a good thing off the campus. All right, as I said, 84% of our students are brand new to us within the last 2 years, 66% are juniors and seniors. So we can't always focus on our state numbers. Yes, they're important. Our state report card's important, but we really, really want to focus on our growth at Armadillo because it tells a story that the state report card doesn't. So as you can see, these are we use Edmentum. So when a student comes in, we give them these 3 tests and we tell them at the end of the year, you're going to test again, and all you have to do is beat yourself. Well, my gosh, did they beat themselves? And they continue to grow every year because they're awesome. And we are pushing them, but not too hard. We really want to focus on this growth within our students. On that note, I did want to let you guys know, in the 24-25 school year, so last year, when students started with us, 61% of them started off track. When we ended our year last year, 37% were off track. However, 15 of those 25 students enrolled over halfway through the year. So if we had gotten those students sooner, we would have gotten them back on track sooner as well. This year, we're starting the year 63% off track. But again, 66% of them are junior seniors, 84% of them are new. So focus on the growth. One giant campaign that we are running this year, which I talked about last year during our job session, was that Armadillo really needs a new way of the community looking at us. We're already getting out there. That's why our numbers for Phoenix talent are going down and we're getting more from outside. But we've been running what we call a misconception correction campaign. So when a parent comes in or a student comes in or we're in the community and we hear something, we put it up as a misconception and we correct it. And we ask our students too, what's going on? They actually treat you like you're an actual person. A student said that. Great. Love that. And if you're interested, there's an amazing article that the Ashland Chronicle wrote about Armadillo. The last line of it is a student saying, before Armadillo, I always thought I was going to only be a fry cook. Now I'm going to 3 colleges, applying to 3 colleges. That's awesome. And then I just asked the students to tell us why we matter. Why do we matter? Can't read all these. However, I do really want to point out these 2 little graphs. Every quarter we give our students a survey that has some very simple questions about safety, significance, and belonging to make sure we're doing what we need to do. Not a single student said that they didn't feel safe at school. Not a single student said the staff didn't care about them. That's awesome. And the last thing, this was from Jen. I asked Jen the other day how she has made it 15 years at Armadillo. And she said, we can't read it. The best things about Armadillo are the intangible things. And my gosh, she's right. That's it.
Thank you. More questions?
Nice day.
I have a question. In the write-up that we have, it talked about proficiency-based grading, and now you've moved to the project, which you mentioned here. Why did you make that change? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we are still using the proficiency-based grading in all of our core classes. So the project block is just one block. And they use a rubric as well in that to make sure that students know exactly how they're going to be graded from top to bottom. And it's kind of making sure that students know the end goal and it's not just task after task after task. The proficiency grading we still do. Students love that to make sure that they can show us, do you know the thing? Then great, move on to the next thing because you know how to do that thing. We're still doing that. It's how we do our credit retrieval still. Jen actually just, I'm gonna put this in the write-up. Jen gave me a list. In the first 2 quarters, our students have credit retrieved over 80 credits. So we have students coming in who know the thing and they can show us they know the thing by doing a mastery test on it. They just weren't showing up to school to show anybody else that they knew it. So the proficiency grading is how our students can still graduate on time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rachel.
Did it. Okay, next is PTRA.
All right, cool. Okay, so my goal with this presentation is just so that you guys have a sense of what we do. Because it feels like PTRA kind of runs in the background, because it does. So I want to be able to, for you guys to have a good enough sense that if somebody in the community asks you, what does PTRA do? How does it work? Answer those questions. So that's kind of what this is about, along with our data and so forth. So just generally our school structure, we've got 2 teachers, an elementary teacher and a middle school teacher, 1 classified person and myself, K-5, 6 to 8. We're at Orchard Hill this year, which has been great. It's been a nice move for us. And we have some virtual elements and some in-person elements. So I'm not going to go over all those. We'll talk about more of those as we go through, but that's kind of the outline. So mostly online, some in-person stuff. Here's our enrollment numbers currently. Like this is as of, I think, well, 120, so a couple days ago. Overall 35 kids right now. I think we started the year at maybe 23 or something. This is the time of year when we start getting a lot more kids. In fact, we have intake meetings scheduled for 5 additional kids next week. So we just had 2 today. So this is the time of year kids start coming over to us. So that's what it looks like. That's kind of the class breakdown, and then middle school and elementary breakdown. And this is what it looks like year over year, going back a few years. And you can see the pattern kind of holds the same. We start fairly low, start in the 20s typically, and typically in the 40s or 50s. Generally, we have more kids in elementary school to start the year, and we have more kids in the middle school grades at the end of the year. Our elementary students stay fairly consistent. We'll add a few. Middle school, we really get influxes of kids as the year goes on. So that's kind of the background of that. Why do people want to join PTRA? It's a lot of things. Some folks, it is travel and lifestyle. They're out of town a lot. They're bringing their kids with them. This works good for them. Some of them, it's they really want to control what their kids are learning and how they're learning it. And then we've also got social and behavioral challenges. We've got kids who having a lot of kids with anxiety and other social situations, especially at the middle school level, but even in fourth and fifth grade, we start to see that. But generally, the elementary levels, it's kids whose parents really want to homeschool them, but they want additional support. Middle school, it's kids who have something else going on. Whether that's mental or physical, mental, emotional health issues or travel situations. The elementary program, it's been fairly consistent. We've kind of operated the same way for several years. This is Maddie Macias. She's our teacher, K-5. They have daily in-person meets. She alternates between math and reading. It's 30 minutes per class. And so she meets with every class, K-5, 30 minutes each. And so she, again, alternates between math and reading. On Fridays, we have an in-person activity. For example, tomorrow, we're having a field trip to Rogue Gallery, which is going to be very cool. But a lot of times on Fridays, we have an in-person art or science activity. The kids and families come in. So we'll generally have as many as 15 kids and almost as many adults in there. So that's kind of our connection time with our students. She also provides one-on-one support for kids. So she's teaching for about 5 hours, and then she's scheduling one-on-one sessions online with students to help support, or parents even. Parents want help with how to teach their kid a certain thing. She does that remotely as well. They also have access to PE, music, and library. And I have to say, Kent's not here, but Orchard Hill's been great as far as fitting us in. The PE teacher at Orchard Hill actually schedules our kids this year, which is really cool. They're excited about that. And we have access to the library, and the library media manager does some work with our kids too. So it's worked out really well. So the teacher, as I mentioned, teaches directly reading and math. She also assigns some social studies activities and science activities. And we follow all the same curriculum as the rest of our district schools: Amplify for reading, Ready Math, math. But all of that stuff is done with, again, half-hour a day of direct instruction, but most of it is the parents delivering the instruction at home in those other areas. In the middle school, this is a little different. This is our new teacher, by the way, Shannon Harley. She's been spectacular. I don't know if you guys had a chance to meet her at all, but she's been really great. We got her most recently she was most recently in Tucson, but has been a great addition to our school and our district. So she meets with the whole middle school online once per week. That's our all meet, we call it. And that's kind of a logistical meeting. And then she meets with each kid one-on-one once a week as well. She provides support academically. She provides one-on-one appointments, again, with students, even outside of the one-on-one meet with kids if they have additional questions. She's there to help them with that. And then students have access to extracurriculars through TMS. And we do have kids who take advantage of those. Whether it's band or basketball or whatever, kids kind of come and go into those programs. All of our instruction is in Edmonton on the middle school side. So that's the same program that almost called you guys ATI.
We'll take it.
ACCS, but same program to use. It's a pretty decent online education platform. Kids are going to take the same classes that they would in person. With the exception of electives, I've talked about electives before. We are starting that Talamaker City elective next Thursday, by the way, which is cool. But we have tons of online elective options, which is really neat for our kids. The electives go for a semester long, and the rest of the classes are year long, obviously. And we have an advisory class, and that's the all meet class, and that's where we do our SEL instruction. We do use Wayfinder elementary and middle school, just like all the rest of our schools do. This is our state report from last year. It's really interesting when you've got 20-ish kids who take a test, what your percentages can do year to year. So I think if you look at this, our class size was down 7. Regular attenders was up 23% increase, right? So that doesn't mean a lot because there's only a few kids. So 1 or 2 kids changing swings those percentages a lot. And the same thing for English language arts and math. Scores, you can see we're down 27% in English language arts, up 11% in math. Again, that's 1 or 2 kids difference in each of those. So I'm not sure how valuable that is, but they put it out, so I figured I'd show it to you guys. Plus, everyone else is going to show you this too, so I didn't want you to think I was covering it up. All right, iReady. So iReady is actually, I think, a little bit better indicator for us. And so this is where our students are in terms of their iReady placement. And this looks very similar to almost every year. We have about 1/3 of our kids who are on grade level or above, and this happens to be reading. You'll see math next. and about a third who are below grade level. Or 2 or more, I should say, below grade level. So it's really interesting. We get some really high achievers and some really struggling kids. And this looks different than what you're gonna see, I think, from our other schools. You'll see a more varied pattern than this. And in math, same kind of look. So, but it looks similar year after year in terms of our math and reading I-ready placement. Our goals, and these goals are developed jointly with our entire staff of 4 people. So I don't want to say I just made these goals. This is our staff's goals. And so what we try to do is we look at where are our strengths and weaknesses from last year? What do we want to work on this year? These are the things that we identified for this year. So building community and sense of place and belonging, that we have every year because it's such a difficult thing for us to do as a remote school, to try to build community and a sense of belonging. So we work on that every month. We talk about this in our staff meetings too. For attendance, just as part of our general school-wide and district-wide attendance push, we want to be great when it comes to attendance. And so those are things that we do. And then math. I think math is something that all of our schools can point to as an area that we want to get better. So that's an area that we are also trying to get better. So here's just some of the things that we do with that. So that is it for PTRA. I'm happy to entertain 2 questions.
Don't get to. Go ahead, Nancy. Do you have Nancy?
I do.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the previous slide, please?
Maybe.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So these goals, they're made up by the 4 of you?
Yep.
I love that. Do you get input from families, previous families that will kind of give you some sort of strategy or pathway to create some sort of goals that are?
Good question. Yes, we do for sure. So that community one, thank you. We survey our families and then we have follow-ups for those surveys to try to find out what can we do? This is our idea. These are our ideas. What can we do? We get feedback from families and we try to implement some of those things. I've talked about some of those things in the past, and some have been more successful than others. But yeah, we do reach out to families specifically to that one. Attendance and math, are less so because those are just things that we're doing in the district. But for sure, we reach out to families every year, a couple times a year about that to see, what are your ideas? How are we doing?
And how are they in parity with the strategic goals of the district?
With the what?
Strategic goals of the district?
Well, math and attendance directly, right? Those are in our strategic plan. The top one, well, actually the top one is kind of related to a lot about what you're gonna hear in our elementary presentation. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily in our strategic plan, but it's certainly part of what we talk about all the time in the district. But specific to our school, it's just a little different.
Aaron, what drives, what reasons are people coming to PTRA throughout the year that causes your enrollment to have that pattern that it has? And then kind of along with that, talk to me about the grade distribution. Is it pretty evenly spread throughout K through 8, or what does that look like?
No, so after doing this for 5 years, we're really clear about what drives it. So for elementary, it's strictly driven by family movement patterns, okay? People who come in who maybe were in a homeschool environment or were in some kind of a thing like Logos or whatever in another area, they want something like that.
Okay.
That's what drives elementary.
Yeah.
We don't get generally, I don't want to say exclusively, but generally, we don't get students who were in one of our elementary schools coming over to us. Now, as it happens, we had one today that did that, but it's not common.
Yeah.
Whereas at the secondary level, it's almost exclusively kids from TMS. And it's things happening at the end of, right before winter break, for example. You know, things have been, maybe they've been struggling a little bit. And right before a break, the family says, let's try something different. As we get right now to the end of semester 1, like I said, we've got in the last week and next week, last week, this week, and next week, I think we've had 7 intake meetings for middle school kids. And it's usually, hey, we've done this for a whole semester. Things are not working, whether it's academically, socially, whatever, but that's the big driver. So you get to an inflection point where end of semester, big break coming up. Same things happens every year right before spring break. So we see it before winter break, end of semester 1, right before spring break. And it's when families are kind of doing an assessment, how are we doing? Do we want to make a change? This is a good time to do it. So that's when we see those, and those are middle school jumps typically.
Yeah. Is that typically families making that decision, or is that us helping people make that decision?
I think it's a combination of both. We also have a Compass program, which is our alternative ed program that middle school can actually jump into. Well, so it's not just PTRA, so there's options there. So.
Yeah, because
They
companies
work with the administrators and say, hey, this is, whether it's an attendance challenge or a social challenge or whatever.
Out of the 35 students, how many of those students are already our students? Like didn't come from outside of the district?
that live in district right now,
Mhm.
33.
Okay,
We have
so most
two.
of them.
Yeah, we have 2 out of district that are on inter-district transfers, but one more maybe next week. 2 more, actually, 2 more. So might be 4 next week.
And I think that's an important thing for the board to understand is it's not a school choice. You have to live within the boundaries of our district, correct?
Or we can do inter-district transfers, just like any other school.
You have to do it on a transfer.
that's
It's
right.
not- It's not, yeah, it's not like a Logos or a.
And here's what we do, and Aaron, and send out a note every year too. We know a list of people that are doing homeschool or other online charters or some things of that nature, and send them letters to say, hey, come and see us and see, this is what we offer. We
Yeah.
feel like we offer a great online environment for our families. Some of them have different I think guidelines or some, I think we talked about it before, there's virtual charters that don't have to follow Vision 22 standards that ours does, so.
Right.
Yeah,
But we feel like that's an opportunity there, if we can get them into our door, that they'll stay. It's just a matter of, really reaching out and welcoming them and having them come in, so.
Yeah.
that's one of our goals every year, not one of our school goals, but one of my goals every year.
Yeah.
And our office manager is to make sure we make contact with every family in our district who is not coming to our district. Make sure they know we are here, here's what we do.
Yeah.
Come talk to us.
And at what point do you have to start, what's the capacity at current staffing levels enrollment wise, would you say?
Oh, we could easily, well, depending on the breakdown, if we continue to accelerate in secondary, we can accept many more secondary kids than elementary kids. But elementary, she could easily serve 30. Secondary, she could serve 40, 45. And she's only a half-time teacher.
Yeah, she's
but-
she's not a full-time FTE, she's not half-time, so it's 1.5 teachers
Correct.
per K.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
I should have made
Yeah.
that comment earlier, but yeah, she's
Okay.
half-time, so,
Okay,
but because she's not doing direct instruction,
yeah,
she's just kind of case managing, she can handle more kids.
got it. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
can you explain the difference between the compass? I'm new here, so how's that different?
Yeah, Compass is kind of our alternative setting, we have it, so, and when Rachel was saying that's where our her special ed students get their specially designed instruction. That's kind of our alternative ed setting at the high school, but it's a 6 through 12 program. So middle schoolers can access that as well. So they could, and that's an in-person environment as well for their kids. So if it's not working out in the middle school, but they still want an in-person meeting time with families more, then that could be an option. If they can handle that instruction and workload in a virtual environment, then that's an option as well.
And campus or compass is the choice for that.
Yeah, that. if
They're
it's not
in
working,
person
yeah.
here at PHS.
Yeah.
They've got a teacher, mini Turley, who does that here.
With compass,
Mhm.
okay. Or into the high school.
Yeah, and middle school kids as well. I don't know how many middle school kids has to break. Yes, we do, so.
Yeah, 2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, it's typically like that. It's not a ton, but it's an option for those kids.
What are some of the intervention strategies for those students that are not attending or might be falling behind? Like how do the students or the kiddos or the families, student kids, the same, students and families, how are they getting re-engaged when they fall behind? I mean, I was looking at your.
Kids who are in our school right
Yeah.
now. So we have goals and minimums for about 5 different metrics that we track monthly. And so if for the middle school kids, that's time on task in Adventum. It's time on task in iReady on both reading and math. In term also, diagnostics, also PE, they have to do log PE minutes. There's also attendance goals, and these are all goals and minimums. If a kid doesn't meet a minimum in any of those in a month, then we reach out to that family immediately. We're gonna set up an intervention right away to get to the minimum at the minimum, for the following. If they don't meet that minimum in the second month, then we're gonna have a meeting and say, is this the best place for your kid? And we've had that happen. Middle school kids who spend 2 hours in Adventum the whole month. You can't pass classes like that. So then we're gonna say, look, this is not working. If there's a logistical hurdle, we're gonna try to solve it. But if it's just, I'm at work all day, my kid just sleeps in or plays games, I can't get them to work. Maybe going back to TMS is the best thing for them.
I have questions. On the attendance you talked about, so a couple things, like how do you track that? I heard you say about the elementary schools are coming in during the week. But also they're working at home, I'm assuming. So how do you track attendance?
Attendance is interesting in a remote school. So we kind of waffled around the first 2 years trying to figure out, and working with the state to say, how does attendance get properly counted in a remote school? And we had leftover rules from COVID for distance learning rules, right? Those don't apply anymore. So without getting too deeply in the weeds, a student has to have contact with their teacher every day in order to get attendance. And that contact has to be two-way, and it has to be meaningful. It can't just be, hey, like a quick email, like, hey, what's up? There needs to be some level of interaction between the teacher and the student. And so we have lots of ways that we can have them do that. There's the elementary kids, they have online classes every day. So that's simple. They show up to their class online, they're in attendance. If they don't, there's other ways they can become in attendance, and that's through some mechanisms we have in the Google Classroom. Secondary, they do have 3 opportunities to see their teacher each week. Well, technically more, but at least 3. Beyond that, they have some check-in forms and some activities that they have to do every day to be in attendance. So I don't know if that answered your question great, but there are things they have to do to be considered present. And if they don't do those, they get marked as absent.
Okay. And like, was Heather full-time and then we went to half?
No, she was 0.6
Okay,
last several years. And then when she retired and we looked at that program, Brent said, hey, how do you think we should structure it? Or can we do something different maybe? And I said, yeah, we could give it halftime. And we removed some of the duties associated with that for that extra 0.1. So there's some things now that the elementary teacher does that Heather was doing last year. So yes.
and how has that changed the dynamic, do you think, of having, I don't know, just that shift in the teacher situation?
Not at all, really. Our new teacher, Shannon, is awesome. She works way more than half time every day. I constantly tell her to stop emailing me like at 4 in the afternoon, like, you're not working right now, stop it. But so there's no drop off. All right.
Maybe Diana has another question.
I'm just wondering, is there still truancy laws and a truancy officer that goes out if kids aren't in school?
We don't even have that in-person schools in our county. The truancy court doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
We don't enforce those statutes. So all those things about fining kids $180 a day if they're not coming, those are
But if you miss a certain number of days of school in a row, then.
they can be dropped. If you're not in attendance in 10 consecutive days, you'll be dropped from
Right.
enrollment. Yeah, and that's true with us too. Although we've never had a kid do that.
Are you enforcing the cell phone policy?
That's the word law. Yeah.
PTRA's referenced in that policy.
Good
Thank you, Eric.
conversation.
Thank you, Eric.
You got like 10.
Each.
That's the longest one.
Aaron's showing up looking at people's windows.
Here.
Like a whole hill.
No.
Well, evening, everybody. First, before we start, I do want to say happy Board Appreciation Month because I was not at the last board. Do my statistics.
Thank you for what you put in the back.
It will go. I was like, oh, it's Board Appreciation. I'm super pumped.
We appreciate you furthering your education.
Especially in stats. 'Cause
Yes.
That's gonna come in.
And
handy. I promise.
skipping, and skipping today.
I did skip tonight, just so you know, which is gonna bite me in the butt.
Well, we're right.
Are you anything? All right, we'll get started. It's funny because Shona and I were just talking about the different themes we've had over the years to kind of share where we are, and they all are really rooted in collaboration. I think it's just one of our North Stars. Obviously, we would die without each other and without Kid, you know, just being this group of 3 people running these beautiful buildings. We really rely on each other, and, you know, over the years have built up these systems that really kind of allow everybody to collaborate as much as possible in meaningful ways. That's kind of our vision. And so we've been working a lot on our systems over the years, because we know that when our systems are working, the kids are gonna do well. And so this year's theme was coherence through collaboration. So I think we're getting there. We're getting really close to some really coherent systems that serve the kiddos the best way that we know research facts. That was weird. So, we're gonna give you some quick data updates, you know, share this year's demo data, like what our buildings are looking like. Talk a little bit more about this notion, all of our students, it's all of our work. Everybody who interfaces with the school in any capacity, it's their job, it's our job. And, we'll talk a little bit about our inclusive classrooms this year, guided by inclusive learning communities and thinking about what we do in school is all based in that. Then we'll talk about hitting our targets and focused on those systems. Sean's going to talk about that. And then how we can include you in some of our stuff a little bit more meaningful and deeper. So our data updates, this will be really quick. So here we are. This is where we're sitting this year with our kiddos. You can see that we were looking at last year's data table and it's quite similar in many ways. I will say that, you know, Shauna's sped population did go up pretty significantly. Ours went down was a little tiny bit, but they're pretty 3 distinct student populations that we serve in this little area of the valley. So
I'll say too, one of our indicators that changed drastically was our MKV. If you remember last year, it was like I can't remember exactly, but it was pretty high. And we're only at 2% right now. So quite a bit.
Can you break down some of these?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, some.
BIPOC would be our, you know,
Can you give me some abbreviations, what they stand for?
Yeah.
Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC, so non-white population of students. LEP stands for Limited English Proficiency. So our students who are learning English as a second language, who we serve through our ELD services, SPED is Special Education Services. Migrant are students who come from families who are migrant workers or work in seasonal work. It could be in orchards, it could be forestry, so they have some qualifications to make that little marker. And then MKB is the McKinney-Vento Act. So those are our homeless students or unhoused students or doubled up. So those are, like Shauna pointed out, really nice to see that number go down. Stabilize. So these are our, you know, years past Smarter Balance in attendance rates at the end of the year. And then where we're kind of trending right now in our iReady. In this year's JAB meeting landed a little bit sooner than last year. So we haven't had very much time this month to bust out this assessment. So we're saying trending because I'm not sure how far along Orchard Hill was. Not very far. Yeah, so it's trending in that, you know, there's only a small certain percentage of that Orchard Hill who's done with their assessments. Just because there just hasn't been a lot of time the way the calendar worked, you know. They've been back to school 2.5 weeks, right? Yeah. And then there was MLK on Monday. So the teachers are still busting those out, but that's kind of where we're trending. And you can see things are looking up. Here's Shauna's school. Oh, and I will go back, sorry. These numbers on the bottom, these are our building level targets. So for Orchard Hill, his target is 80% in attendance, 55 in reading, and 45 in math, based upon the scores over the years, aligned to our strategic plan. So we all kind of have different little goal areas depending on where we start, right?
Yeah.
So Shauna.
Like, so as you can see, like each year we kind of we've progressed in each of the subject areas except for ELA for us last year, which we knew we would kind of take a little bit of hit, but we're trending in the right direction with our current iReady. And this is the column that I'm talking about right now. With math, we're only 70% of the way through this assessment. So even though it says 18%, I suspect that that's going to go up. And then with attendance, we've grown significantly over the last few years. Our 80-30-30 is what we're calling our goals this year. We're trending above 80% the whole, and have been for the whole year. So we're doing well with attendance, which feels really good.
And for talent, this is kind of our trends. You can see that things are looking up as well, especially, we're really, really proud of the big jump we did make in our math scores last year. So I'm really hopeful, that as we get more coherent in our instructional routines in math, that we're gonna keep seeing that bump, because we have a pretty high target of 55 in both reading and math and 85 in our attendance. And the funny thing about the attendance, how we measure it and we obsessively check it, is it goes up and down like 2 to 3 to 4%. And we're like,
Every day
we might lose our mind, not mind. We're like, geez, why are we so obsessive about it? But we are, as you can probably tell. We do weird things like wrap ourselves in wrapping paper and just whatever it takes. Right now we're on a Mustang buck kick at my school, and we had the hot cocoa thing recently. So just whatever it takes to really motivate those kids and get them excited to feel like, oh yeah, it's cool there. My daughter had her dentist appointment this morning, and she's like, oh my God, we won't get 100%. And I'm like, they're just gonna be tardy an hour. And says, you'll be okay, you'll get your Mustang back. So they know it's a big deal. We talk about it all the time. So as we were like, oh, what do we want to share that's kind of new and different? We went to full inclusion classrooms this year, which has been beautiful. But then really we're like, oh yeah, it's all of our students and all of our work. When we say all our kids are all of our kids, all over and over again, because I don't know, it's a human condition to try to categorize and sort people. We do that, right? And we talk about kids, oh, that's a tier 3 kid. No, tier 3 is a service, an extra intervention that children get. And so we've been really trying to change our how we talk about it, because we want to ensure that all of our kids are all of our kids and it's all of our work. To try and continue to message that, not just in our buildings, but in families and with the greater community at large. So first, all means all. We say this a lot, and we really do mean that. All means all. And when hard things happen, we have to message that to families too. So we'll talk a little bit more about our inclusion efforts to have fully included classrooms. We'll talk about how all means all in our district level PLCs, and then of course in family engagement. When we were kind of planning for this meeting, Kent said, he's like, it's so weird. It's not been that long that we've gone full inclusion, but the TLC is almost not in our lexicon anymore. We don't even talk about it, and so TLC was our transitional learning center classrooms, which were those site-based classrooms where we had some of our kids with more significant needs. And it's so amazing how just, a few months into this year that we don't even talk about TLC, right? It's not even a thing. And so this is really what we're aiming to say, where we're trying to go in our district. And we'll know that inclusive education has really become embedded in our culture. And we don't even have to say it. It doesn't have to be mentioned. It's what it is, right? So that's kind of our pie in the sky. But these are, and I don't know when we're going to share some of the outcomes that Brent asked Tiffany to pull, but this is also in line with what we experience every day with our kiddos. When we have all of our kids pushed into our general classrooms, we have positive peer models, which is a big deal. What we know about neurology and mirror neurons and how brains work, and especially really sensitive kids, peer modeling is a big deal. And we'll share that data with you later on about fewer behavioral incidents, fewer referrals, fewer suspensions, fewer staff injuries and stuff, because kids have models to look at and emulate. So it's been beautiful. And they're making friends. It's really cute. Also important, the whole mission of education, right? We're gonna try to teach them, and so they're getting access to grade level content in ways that they hadn't. And this is a little quote from one of my kiddos who I've just been like so proud to see. I'm a smart boy. I can feel my brain working. This is a fifth grader who's learning multiplication. And he's like, wow, I can actually do it. You know, like he's grappling with grade level content in ways that he hadn't been before. So I just feel so proud and I'm really, really excited. I feel Tiff and I'm like kind of nerding out about just tracking the data over time about how much growth they can make when they are pushed into a gen ed classroom. So it's just been so fun. I'm like, can we pull it now? She's like, it's only been a few months. I'm like, let's compare the data. Because I just believe the proof is in the pudding, yeah. We can sit, the numbers don't lie. We feel it anecdotally day to day when you see the kids interacting, you see them, you know, working alongside their peers and doing the grade level content. You're like, oh, God, it is working. Holy cow. But their data will be beautiful. I'm so excited. So just cheers for her for all of her leadership. And then of course, when we belong, when we know we're part of a team, we're going to show up for our teams. And the attendance data for this population is pretty incredible. And as a district and elementary, you can see we're up all over the boards. So when we create this sense of belonging that all means all, really, you want to be there. Because who doesn't want to be part of the fun? And when we talk about all means all for our elementary teacher teams, this year we did do a slight shift. And we were like, gosh, what's our next step in our PLC journey? PLCs are professional learning communities.
I know,
We
I was
are
like, oh.
wrought with these things. I could probably write a manuscript on them. So teachers participate in professional learning communities, which traditionally were grade level teams at elementary within the building. And so last year, actually, whatever, the last 6 years, we've been working on resetting some really procedures and protocols and systems with that. And so this year we took a lead. Last year we were working on some unit planning stuff in our buildings teams. And this year we said, you know what, we're going to shift it. So now we have weekly virtual meetings district-wide with grade levels. It's really, I was kind of nervous because I'm like, oh, are they going to take it seriously? Because meeting virtually is different, you know, just a different kind of feel to it. But they love it. The teachers love it. And so what they're working on is those unit plannings in language arts and math. And so, you know, we have some really rich curricular programs. And so they're going through the process of looking at their units together, planning together. Some of them, if they're new to the grade level, are learning the whole unit the first time. If they've taught it before, then they're offering guidance and mentorship to one another. Another beautiful thing that's come out of it is they're holding each other accountable for pacing updates. And so what I mean is that, you know, our curriculum is designed for a year and it's easy to get behind. And if you get behind, the students are not exposed to the entire program. They're missing a piece of a pie, right? And so every week they talk about where you at. Are we on pace with our pacing guides? And so they're holding each other accountable in really professional ways that hadn't been happening before when it was just building level. And then they're talking about common assessment administration so that we know that we're measuring in the same way. So it's more of an equity issue. I think I can't remember what grade level I was in, gosh. But we get to pop in these two. By the way, it's way easier virtually than in person because you get really stuck. But when all the teachers are all online at the same time meeting, we have the ability to, you know, be able to jump into those meetings and kind of listen in and try to see how we can better support them. But part of their process and their unit planning is a reflection piece, which is really cool to hear because that's when teachers are learning how to do it better and they're sharing it with one another. And they're really side effect that I don't know why I didn't anticipate, but they really are holding each other to that higher professional standard because it's new people, right? especially, I don't know, Talent has a really stable teaching, force that we don't have a lot of turnover, just a lot of people have been there for a while. So you get kind of lax when you're around the same buddy, oh, we've been teaching together 20 years. It just gets a little bit, relaxed, which is nice to have relaxation and, feel that comfort. But when you have a little bit of kind of rub where you're like, oh, there's a new person here, I want it, it's just really leveled up the professionalism, which I just think is beautiful. And then we started some district-wide core reviews. So we'll have all of our third grade teachers looking at the third grade data as a district. Because all means all, right? All of these kids are all of our kids. And we do get them bouncing around our building. So that has been excellent. And we're still working on family engagement. This is what I call the now predictable framework because we've been doing it for several years. When we invite our families in and Rebecca gets to experience this, we always try to have a connection building activity. We share our data transparently. We work on capacity building. How can we support learning at home with our families? And then we set some goals. This little picture on the, oops, should be the wrong buttons. There's up here. This is a little T-chart from one of the evenings. What information is helpful to receive at these family nights? Kids, I don't know. I don't know. What the kids know, but that's important because it's for the families. Is upcoming events, child participation, school year goals, child social skills, discussing ways to improve attendance, future events, progress, goals, progress monitoring, and a progress report. Those are what people are saying to us about what they want to do, which is great, right? This is kind of, you want to share about this? I'm sure she's gonna hand this out.
Well, this was just when Heather and I were in New Orleans presenting about our family engagement work. We had decided we were going to go to this other presentation by the ESD, and because it was Tanya Friesendahl and she's part of our ESD and she's been supporting our family engagement work here. And so we show up and then all of a sudden there's this huge report and it's a case study on us. We're like, they were gonna talk about our data, but this is a full report on our family engagement assessment work that we've done for in 2022 and then again in 2025. And so it was like, oh, and we were all of a sudden the stars of the presentation, and we didn't even know that was going to happen. So I'm like, Heather, thankfully we went to this session. But then she gave us all of the extra copies, and I'm like, what do I do with these? I was like, wow, I'm just seeing it. You guys want to look at that. So for your reading pleasure tonight, or whenever, feel free.
It was really funny. We were like, oh, that's us. So funny. But it's a great report. And so we're like, we're gonna share those out. So this year with family engagement, some of the refining steps that we're taking in this work is thinking about how to integrate families better, more intentionally with the curriculum resources that our students are accessing. So we're working on integrating those into our family nights. As I said, we're obsessed with attendance. There's a cute picture of some of the kids having hot cocoa on a cold day because we get 90% as a school. And the next thing we're kind of scheming up in the near future are these family learning walks. And it's a strategy that Shawnee and I learned about when we were in New Orleans this fall. So basically just getting families in the buildings to learn a little bit more, to get a little bit more familiar with how does the school system work? It's changed a lot since our parents have been in school, obviously. If you've looked at math anytime in the last, 10 years, people are like, what is this? So it'll be a really, really exciting thing to start. There you go. Yeah.
So the next thing that I want to talk about is just hitting the target. And so we have we talked over the years around our leadership teams within our school. So each school has different leadership teams that we have. So we're moving more toward district level leadership teams. And so we are using our Wednesdays where we're gathering people from all 3 schools to look at these curricular decisions around implementation of curriculum, implementation of strategy. So our first one was called DILT, and that's the District Implementation Leadership Team. We then didn't realize that a year later we were going to do a math one. So this is our ELA team basically. And so what we're doing in those teams, we meet once a month, but they're taking a deep dive into the standards of practice on how you teach reading. all of the really finite components of it and becoming very crystal clear about how that should be done. What's the best instructional strategies, the best engagement strategies, how they build on one another. So we're really becoming clear and targeted about what every person should be doing at different grades to help support reading and literacy in our schools. With that, we have the help of Oregon RTII, which stands for Oregon Response to Intervention and Instruction. So they're a group that we are part of the 12th cohort. So we've been working with them over the last 3 years. And basically they're helping us really look at our system, which is our core instruction, our interventions when our core instruction when kids need more support, and then our individualized supports that kids might need in all areas. So this could be in reading, this could be in math, or this could be in behavior. And so, or even in attendance. So when you hear things like MTSS or Oregon RTI, MTSS stands for our multi-tiered systems of support. So it's just like the overarching category of all of the things that are education. So what we're doing right now is we're refining our handbook. So we haven't done a handbook in probably 15 years. I think was the last time we did our EBIS handbook, is what we used to call it. So we're really getting crystal clear about what are our decision rules about how well kids are doing and when we should do supports and interventions and things like that. So this DILT team is working on that. And then the last thing that they're doing as they're meeting is that they're really figuring out what is it that our teachers need, what kind of professional learning and what kind of professional development. So Javier and Corinne Calhoun, our literacy coach, do a lot of work around how do we then continue to support our teachers to learn more information about how to do the standards of practice. So they're doing a lot of professional development for teachers. So that's our DILT team. And then we also have a MILT team that was formerly led by Jamar Boyd. She, due to budget cuts, she's now in the classroom, but she's still leading a lot of this work for our math implementation leadership team. So our team this year for math is focusing on 2 standards of practice. We really want our teachers getting really good about posing purposeful questions, and we really want them to engage kids in discourse. So getting kids talking about math. So engagement strategies around think, pair. It used to be think, pair, share, and now that's just not enough. We are doing structured partner talks. You're an A, you're a B, you're an A, you're a B. A, say to B, B, you're going to revoice and say this. So we're getting really technical with our skills around how we are increasing engagement so that kids, we know when they're talking about math, they're going to be learning more math. So we're doing a lot of work around that. The MIL team is also working on a few years ago did a program called SEEKS where we had teachers observing each other. So we're creating our own kind of version of that again, where teachers are learning from each other. So when they go into classrooms, it's really for the benefit of the observer, not the person being observed. So when we do instructional walks, we're observing teachers and then giving them feedback. This is the opposite of that. It's teachers walking in and gleaning, what can I learn from these teachers with respect to these 2 specific outcomes that we would like, our standards of practice. And then again, this team is also doing a lot around professional development and helping teachers learn about, we're focusing a lot on assessment right now, getting ready for the Smarter Balance. And when we say that, the thing that we're really reframing is that we used to talk about Smarter Balance prep, the test, but what we really kind of miss when we say things like that is that we're really measuring essential skills. The Smarter Balanced Assessment is measuring the essential skills that we know kids need in order to be successful moving forward. And so sometimes I think we get a little, what's the word, where you get a little like test focused, but the test is a really important measure of how kids are doing with these essential skills that we know they need. So we're really embracing that and trying to do a lot to prepare students to be successful on this test. And then in our upcoming family engagement meetings, we're going to be doing a lot of support around helping families know what these essential skills look like. So for example, like last week, we had our K-1-2 teachers and we gave them the 3rd grade reading assessment. And then we said, okay, what in this do you think is that what building blocks do kids need in order to be successful on this assessment? The crazy thing is if you were to take the 3rd grade reading assessment, and I think we're going to actually have you do it at some point in the future, is they have to read the instructions and then read 2 very long passages twice They have to read it twice, and then they have to pull out information and be able to write a pretty coherent paragraph in third grade. So it's just really important that we know, we all know that, and that families know that, and that teachers are preparing kids for that. So that's a lot of what both the MILT and the DILT team are working on. And then along with that, so we have 2 targeted district teams, and then we're doing a lot of targeted feedback towards these skills. So when we as administrators walk into classrooms, we're doing a lot of individual observations, but we're doing even more co-observations than we've done in the past. In our ad team meetings, we've met at different buildings, and then we are in teachers' classrooms a lot more, giving really specific feedback on these specific things that we're looking for, especially when it comes to engagement and then curriculum implementation. So we're getting really targeted those things. So I think that's all I want to say about that. So our final slide. You are included. First of all, I love this, and all means all, and that means you too. So trust grows when people are welcomed into the process, not just the outcomes. So I know what we at these meetings share with you a lot is a lot of the outcomes and who we are, and then also a little bit of the process work. I feel so grateful. I'm speaking for everybody here. We have the world's best board. You come to events all of the time. You are present, you are curious. We appreciate that. And if you want even more, we want you to feel free to join in. If you want to come to a Tuesday PLC meeting, they're every Tuesday from 2:55 to 3:45. You can just give Heather, I, or Kent a call, and we will zoom you in and patch you in. They're really incredible to watch. And they're open. These teachers they're working really hard, and they're really collaborating. It's really cool to see. We have PLC meetings. So we have Wednesday early releases, something that the board has supported for a really long time. We invite you to come check out some of the professional learning. We've been really intentional about utilizing that time wisely because we know it's a gift. We're taking that learning away from students because we know teachers need time to do professional development. So you're welcome to any of that. We do 4 reviews 3 times a year where we look at all of the data that we are just sharing with you, and we review it, and then we make strategies and plans based on that. So if you want to join in on that, you're welcome. And then we will be doing we do instructional walkthroughs, and then we'll be doing some learning walks, which I think that might be a better place for you to come in is during when we do the family learning walks. But I just want you to know feel free to join. Every year you always ask, what can we do? Like, you're already doing a lot. So, but feel free to join in those things. And then we just want to say thank you so much. Leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those who are in your charge. And I feel like all of us leaders up here feel that you do just that. We feel really taken care of by you. So thank you for just doing your work, your role, and trusting us to help lead these schools. So do you have any questions?
Can you explain the family learning walks a little bit more?
Yeah.
Wow. So we really want families to be more embedded in our, what it means, because I think. Well, and we're working on our kind of observation protocol so that it doesn't feel like a judgy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? As a teacher, you're like, what are you doing?
So it's them, but physically they're coming into the classroom?
Yeah, with the protocol to like kind of further what we're doing in our family nights to be like, like when we say this is what it means. Because eventually the pie in the sky is that families are leading those training sessions for one another. Because they know so well how to be successful in our schools that they say, hey, it's fine now, I got this. We've seen that, right? Did you get to go to San Diego back in the day when we got to see some of that? We've seen some models across the country where families are really, really poised to take some of this on to help us. And it's so powerful when families are learning from one another. And that happens organically in our family meetings when we invite them on. We'll be like, what's working for you? And we'll have those conversations. But for them to be able to eventually take some of this on would be really cool. That's what our way up their goal is.
Yeah, and I think the continuum is thinking about this idea of, we call it family engagement, but what we really want is family partnership. And so that partnership can look differently. And I know when families are going to come in, they're going to be looking through the lens of how does this benefit my child? Because I think that most people think through that. And so we know that they're the experts of their like lives at home. And so how can what they see here be translated to what things they can be doing at home to support learning that way? Or, you know, there's lots of endless possibilities and stuff, but it's really on our continuum to move from just involvement to engagement to true family partnership is what we're.
And empowerment.
And empowerment, yeah.
What does that look like specifically for your school with the bilingual population being a little higher there?
Say that again? Wait.
What does that look like in your school where you have a higher group of Spanish speaking students?
Like just in terms of what partnership would look like?
Yeah,
I think right now we have a really like a solid like, you know, like a core group of like, well, not even just a core group, like our doors are open in terms of like making sure we're really being responsive to what families' needs are and their desires, but also it rests on the school to help build the capacity because we're kind of experts in the educational part of it. And so what we need through these partnerships is kind of like doing kind of creating relationships by being in relationship with families, and then also like through our family nights, having families connect with each other. I mean, that's a big part of what we're doing in the work there. And then just having a better understanding of what our standards are and what are we like being measured on. And so how can we work together to make that happen? So that answer your question.
yeah.
Thanks.
I would love for you to share with Denise those dates or times or whatever, and so we can have those, so I can calendar them and be there.
We would love it. We're just working on our protocol. We're, you know, I've drafted some stuff, gotten feedback from Shauna, gotten feedback from one of our consultants. Next step, teacher feedback, because we're not
Yeah.
doing it without their input.
Right, but I'm talking about like all those ways that we can.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think too, just being real clear with our staff, you know, that you've invited the board and what we're showing up to do and what we're not showing up to
Yeah,
do.
that's right.
But that's
I
wonderful.
think your guys' reputation precedes you in the best way possible. Everybody trusts you and knows that like your interest is to support them. There's a, you know, the purpose in the putting you, everybody trusts you guys. I wish you could hear.
Yeah, I don't think your presence would make any feel threatening at all. I think it would just be like, oh,
They're here, it would be important, but we would absolutely from that up.
yeah.
Great.
It's polite.
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much for such an incredible and robust and very lively presentation. Like, I love the PowerPoint. I love that it just was very bright and concise. So thank you for that. And in your invitation of having us being more engaged, I have made a request of the schools to ensure that there's language accessibility for all of the events that we have. And it's something that I still see that we can absolutely improve upon. So in your commitment to be more inclusive and create spaces of belonging and kind of tying the question that Polly asked that I really love, like, how do parents know? And sometimes I love that we have a very diverse population, and sometimes we have, well, not sometimes, we absolutely have leadership that doesn't necessarily represent the communities that we serve. So there's gaps in how to better support our families. So with that, I really believe in language accessibility to ensure that we are truly doing what we're professing that we do. And I do think that you're absolutely right. We have a really beautiful reputation for a lot of different things, and there's still a lot of growth for us to do. So my hope continues, not my hope, my request, my absolute dire request. And I say that with a lot of emotion and pain. We need to create spaces where people feel safe, where people know that they can come here and be supported. And I know that, you know, this is a really beautiful school district, and I'm so proud when I hear all over the community how much people love and respect the district. And we still have so much growth. So my hope is that we do, without having people asking us, can you provide interpretation, that it is just another practice. And I continue to say that I extend myself to support folks on how to do interpretation, how to make things more accessible, how to engage families. I get excited about this concept of family walking tours. That's not what you call it, you call it something else. But how do we really engage and co-create with these families? And it isn't an afterthought, because for so long, for too long, this inclusion piece continues to be an afterthought, like, oh, we forgot. I'm grateful that we now have more our social media now is more bilingual. I love that. Thank you. And it must be something that we do. Family nights, not graduations, but transition from elementary to middle school to high school. My request is that. And I hear the heart, and I still see, there's these both things that are happening, like I acknowledge it's 7 o'clock and you're here and you have beautiful families at home that love you and need you, and there's a lot to do. And my hope is not to be an extra burden, but to really be more thoughtful and inclusive of the families that we get to support, because once those families truly see that this is a place for them to feel, I heard you say, not just involved and engaged, but it's a partnership and an empowerment, then people will show up in really beautiful ways. And I mean, we have such a large, diverse population. Thank God for that. And we can do better. So I'm happy to schedule times with any and all of you to ensure that this is something that we continue to do for the families. Some families don't ever come because because they might not understand civic engagement or engagement within their kids' school period. So how can we create pathways and start to mitigate those gaps better? So that's my question.
Nancy, do you have because you're talking to the elementary group, do you have a specific elementary specific, something that you've seen or heard about recently, that feedback, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I think you have a lot of good general feedback there, but for the elementary group, like, what's something specifically that you see as a big gap right now in terms of accessibility?
Which access?
Like,
I mean, I think that when there's family nights, unless it's specific, I will highlight Laura Millet. She's phenomenal. She has worked in this district for so long, has the trust of the community. People go to Laura, they might not go to Shauna, they might not go to any of the other administrators, because they don't have a connection or a relationship with them. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying in general, when really deep things happen, they don't always know where to go. At the middle school, when Blanca was there, oh my gosh, I love Blanca, I miss her. But she really engaged folks at the middle school, and she had such a robust opportunity to engage, and people were a lot more involved. But at the high school, I know that it has made a huge difference having Erika. And it's not that,
I know, I'm talking specifically elementary.
yes,
What do you see as the biggest gap for language accessibility right now?
what is it, promotion and family nights?
So just events having
Events, just making sure
interpretation.
that there's, yeah, and even what are the goals? How do people know that this is the roadmap? How does that go?
The cool thing about Grant
Delivered.
is that technology translates everything into the language of preference. So anytime we send communication home and invitations.
Not verbatim, because it's great. They're doing a great job.
I would like that.
Poor Joe.
When we invite people in and stuff, we're kind of living in a little bubble with our bilingual program. And so we have so many bilingual staff. And so
Yeah,
our
that's
family
true.
nights are held in those bilingual classrooms with
Yeah.
our students who have, so it's we're kind of living in this bubble of of course we have translation because everybody speaks Spanish, half of our schools are speaking Spanish. And so it's kind of but I know what you're saying. There's always, especially now, creating safe spaces where they feel that deep sense of belonging and that they can,
It's a very scary time. I mean, I am a US citizen, but I can't tell you how many times I walk into spaces where I go, how am I perceive here, and I have layers upon layers upon layers of privilege. And I feel that, I mean, I felt that every day, I feel it every day. There's resources that I know of that I can, reach out to. There's also families that don't have that. So rather than waiting, like, well, we have that, it's really about providing that without the ask.
Well, and what I'm hearing you say is having trusted staff members at our schools who can connect with families is so vital too, but, yeah, thank you.
How much is there both English and Spanish and written? Like the menus, school menus, or signs in the hallway? All of them?
And my hope is that, yes, the elementary just presented, but this is really in general for the high school and the middle school. And, just in general, not just that, so. If I did not make that clear.
So,
I have a question. So when, it's been a long time, my boys are now adults. But when the boys went to town elementary, the assemblies were in English and Spanish. Are they still in English and Spanish? Okay.
My kids went through the school district and they were never in English and Spanish.
Well, I know that I remember that there was a time that they were English and Spanish. And some parents came up to me and complained that they were English and Spanish, and I said, well, everyone should learn, and so they walked away. But so I know that one year, at least 1 year, the assemblies and the parent night, I remember being at the barbecue with the firefighters, and it was spoken in English and it was spoken in Spanish. So I'm guessing that's not happening anymore.
I do my best with my Spanish. I suck so bad, but like at fifth grade promotion, I'll translate my speech and go back and forth.
Cause
Sounds horrible, but it's worth it.
when the boys were there, it was a Spanish speaking person that spoke.
Yeah, and we have that too available, right?
But you're not doing it every single assembly and every single parent night.
We don't have a lot of families coming to our assemblies. We do monthly assemblies. And so
Okay.
when we think about kind of just our language model, there's times when we want to be bilingual and times when we want to be monolingual because that's the language. So last year when we had Christian Siqueiros as our behavior manager, he definitely did a lot of translation for that for the students. When we have fifth grade graduation, we're using the translation devices. So we have somebody, a translator, speaking into a microphone that gives that. But like thinking about just yesterday, our winter performance, we did not have a translator for the introduction of that. So thinking about those kinds of things, I hear you loud and clear that we have lots of room to improve and grow. And knowing that it's not just about having the one person, but how to create a culture where people feel like they have access and agency to affect change or to influence decision making and things like that. So that's always the aim. And what are the strategies that we're going to do to ensure that happens is still always a work in progress. And I feel like we've done a lot of experimenting over the last few years with when we did appreciative inquiry cycles, the only people that showed up were our Hispanic families to that. And so Laura Millette basically just translated all of the work, and we got a lot of information from that around what their concerns were. And at that time, we were doing it on attendance, but their biggest concern was, where are the teachers? My child is saying that my teachers are gone all the time. And we've grown a lot in both our student attendance, but our teacher attendance has also increased significantly. So just, as we've kind of dealt with issues over time, they surface themselves. But what I hear you saying is that the onus should be on us. I said that our job is to help build capacity for families. So it's our job to ensure that we have spaces and to reach out and not to just make sure they're asking. Thank you. Thank you for the call back.
Well, I think as wonderful as the staff connections are, when we are dependent upon individuals and it's not necessarily ubiquitous culturally or systematically, that's where we can have these ebbs and flows. I mean, Nancy and I were talking about a committee that we started last year focused on a very specific topic that just kind of fell off. And we need to restart that again, but when it's dependent on individuals, it can be, things can be inconsistent. And so Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. And
Yeah.
speaking of that inconsistency, like it is really hard. And I mean, a lot of people say, oh, you're on the board and the board kind of comes with a lot of power and influence. I don't feel that way because even when I ask for things, like, you know, I don't necessarily feel like I have all that power and influence. And I kind of do, and I still feel like, oh, let me tippy toe around asking for this question. Can you imagine the families that feel completely disempowered? That don't have a relationship? I feel that. I am an English speaker. I've been on this board for 5 years, and I still feel that. So it's incredibly hard. And rather than putting that responsibility and onus on the families, how can we, as you're saying, systematically and just simple dignity and respect, create systems where people can know that they feel fully welcomed, fully accepted, fully whole to show up however they show up, because we're asking them to support their kiddos. We're asking them to help us. We're asking them to be partners with us. And it's really hard when people don't feel like they actually have something to offer. And if there's already that power dynamic that is shifted and it isn't there, it's really difficult.
Thank you, appreciate it. We are, I'm gonna give us a 5 minute break, or 6 minute break. Let's reconvene at 7:15. We're running a little behind. I wanna try to get everybody out of here as close to our end time as possible, but we are gonna run over a little bit. So, we'll see you at 7:15.
Thank you. Thank you. And the last thing I wanted to say is congratulations on the Amy,
Setting, I might have to have your system now. This meeting, or too much. Fine. I know, I'm getting way too old for that. It's hurting.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for, just giving me this opportunity to share about Talent Middle School. As kind of we get in, I think, really for me, and I've said it a lot, being able to go in year two has been just very grateful to be in year two and what that has entailed, knowing systems, knowing kids, knowing families. And so excited to share about Talent Middle School. I did, and I shared this, I think, early on in the year, and I kind of share this now. Not only is like middle school such a, people always say it's such a tumultuous time for kids, and it is, and for families, but I also think just the reality of the world that we live in right now, and whether it's the constant negative information that we are constantly getting, beginning with hope. And I think for many of our kids, families, staff, we all come from, different backgrounds, different things. And I think we're relying on this thing of hope and hoping for a better future for our kids, for our community. And so I did this activity with staff in our first meeting together during in service, and it was really answering the question, what is your hope for our students? I also did the same activity with our first family night and answering the same questions. Because again, I think there's one thing of us of our individual hope, but how do we come together with our collective hope? I'm not going to read all of them, but this one that's right here. So I hope students know they're capable of doing hard things, they belong, they're loved, and they feel safe. I think for a lot of kids that we work with, things get hard, and that like grit and perseverance to kind of keep pushing forward, and keep moving. And so I think that capable to, and then also feeling that belonging, feeling safe. And I think for me, wanting to create a school environment culture where that is reality, knowing that we have so much work to do, is something that we're striving for each and every day. I'm gonna cough throughout this, and I'm sorry. Just some of the highlights. I think another thing, again, like I really want our students to leave middle school as a good experience. I don't know how many adults I talked to, whatever middle school was not the brightest years of their life. And so I think creating opportunities of joy for our students and all that. A couple of the pictures I'm going to share, and I'm going to talk about this program. So these are our 8th grade leaders, which is web. Which is where everyone belongs, doing cookie decorating with our 6th graders and creating a more welcome environment for our 6th graders transitioning from elementary school. Thank you. And then I have to point this out because I am competitive and I will always be competitive, but we do at our assemblies, we usually do a staff student challenge. And this bulldog here on the other side, it does say students win if they win. But we won the last dodgeball competition. And just move with that. But again, just us doing a laugh together. I think it's important for our kids to see us doing group things and all of that. So a couple, and that we want support. Here is a breakdown of our student population. Again, I think as the other schools have talked about, just grateful for our student body, where they come from, different backgrounds, different abilities, and all of them have a voice, and it's important for me in that. And I think tying it to it, like anytime looking at data and all of those, like in looking at just numbers and realizing that each one of those numbers is a kid. And so just this quote, every child deserves a champion. An adult will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they possibly can be. And I think something that transition from middle school for me is just this idea of insisting that they become the best. And it takes persistence, and it takes maybe being cussed at a time or two, but not giving up, and continuing to show up, and just knowing, again, each one of those kids is needs this. And so this is something, and I know I talked about this last year too, like where we are at. This is our beginning of year diagnostic. So this is showing our students who are on grade level at the beginning of the year. So it would make sense that these numbers are lower. If we came in and every one of our students were at grade level at their very first assessment, there'd be some, it might not be the most appropriate spot that they would be in. So looking at where they are at now, as the elementary and other schools have mentioned, our students are in the middle of doing the diagnostic, the second one right now. And so I have some of those numbers, but there hasn't been enough of our students to take them to be able to show. One of the things I wanted to zoom in on, tying it to our strategic plan in eighth grade math. And this was like just an area that I'm continuing to keep an eye on and look at. And so at the end, the fall diagnostics, the first diagnostic, last year, our eighth graders were at 5% at or above grade level. This year, they're at 12%. Again, I mean, that is an increase. It's something that we're keeping an eye on and intrigued to see that impact as they continue on and see where they are at. So far, the second diagnostic for math, about half of our students have taken it. And we are at, instead of 14, they're at 22. But again, that's only half, so it's hard to really kind of know where they're going to end up. Go. Attendance wise, so something that in this 90 to 100, so our regular attender rate, that's something that we're measured by the state, students that show up 90% of the time. Currently, it's 73% of our students. Last year at this time, it was like about 71, so we've stayed pretty similar. With our focus and our attendance teams, and I'll get into that in a little bit, we're really focusing on obviously all the groups, like these groups that are below 80%, that's where we're really sitting down with individual families. But what specifically about 85 to 89%, like what are those students that we can build in incentives to move them past that 90%? And so that's been a lot of our time identifying those kids, building a relationship with those kids, trying to figure out what barriers are in the way to get them to become a regular attendant. So with this reality again, and it's something that, you know, thinking about Nancy, what you said as well, like we can always get better, and we need to get better. And something that going back to, you know, these data points and these percentage, this book that I read last summer, I have this quote written on my board, but I will not let you move through this school and be forgotten. In the book, it's a basketball coach that talks about the gym, but I think for me, thinking about each of our kids, each of our staff, and knowing them, and so for me, building relationships, because I think that's how in the end game really impacting some of those other data points, and then wanting to be motivated to show up and do what they need to do. So supporting this reality, I talk about our counselors a lot because they deserve it. They do amazing work in our schools each and every day. Not only like I just want to like crisis support in general, like the amount that they are dropping everything for a kid who is going through the crisis, trauma, name it, and how they carry that. It's something that is monumental for our school. But something that I've been working a lot with them this year in particular is around looking at our different tiered supports and what we are doing to supporting all kids, supporting kind of that middle ground, and then supporting our tier 3 as well. So they're doing a lot more support around academics in particular this year. And so they're doing these different academic workshops for our students who have failed science or math. And so that is something that they're meeting, creating goals and all of that. And then also just looking at how this idea of why do grades matter? Those are questions that I get a lot. And so trying to build in more, whether it's incentives, motivation around grades. And so this overall systems and support around academics, and the counselors are playing a huge role in that. Sources of strength. This is a suicide prevention curriculum program that they're pushing into classes to talk to students on. We do a first generation college day for that, to not only be able to see maybe staff or adults that are in the building that are first generation college students, but also them being able to look ahead and connect to future goals and all that. And then web, it stands for Where Everybody Belongs, and it's our 8th grade leadership group that is incredible. It's about 45 kids. They have to apply, they get interviewed, it's a whole thing. And the work that they do with our 6th grade students, not only just being there at the beginning, but continuing to, if a 6th grader is having a hard time, we connect them to their web leader because they're connected with the same kid all throughout. And many times that web leader is way more impactful than I can be. And so using students and that peer support and that leadership and growing them, and it just is a really special group. So just want to highlight them. As you know, we talked about our academic data and we looked at that. It's definitely an area that I lose sleep over and thinking about different ways to be able to support our students and our staff. But just some of these looking at using our Docker curriculum, this observations and intentional feedback. Again, like my role going in classrooms, what is working well, what is not, and being able to give actionable steps to teachers to be able to impact their practice. We have a class built in, it's called Bulldog Block, that is math intervention in particular. And so we have a number of students that's built into their schedule to get intervention support. We have been more intentional this year with that class, with it just being math teachers who are teaching it, and then also leveling out. And so we have like our students that are close to getting to grade level, they might be in the class, and our students who need more support. We've made those classes smaller so that way those students can get more individualized support as well. Focus on writing the foundational reading skills, looking at really cross-curricular, how is writing being involved, whether it's in our CTE classes and things like that as we prepare for the state test, and how big writing is the component of that. And so students are being exposed to different writing skills in there. And then, as I mentioned, building motivation on grades, attendance, and something this year, just tying more things to that. So we just had an 8th grade dance. It's the first time we did that, which I went into very hesitant because it's a middle school dance. And it was kids that had to be passing all their classes and had to have a certain benchmark on tardies because we were dealing with a bunch of tardy issues. So it was just cool. I mean, we got to celebrate the kids who earned it, and it was a good opportunity to be able to do that. And then we do a thing called pause that usually at the end of every quarter just to celebrate that we have made it through that quarter. But we've changed that in a way of now, instead of it being, usually it will be tomorrow, the last day of the quarter, it's going to be next week. And students have to be passing all their classes to participate. And just trying to add more meat, teeth, motivation to grades. Just want to talk a little bit about just the student schedule again as they transition from the elementary to the middle school and what that entails. So they have 8 classes over a 2-day rotation. You can see our core subject classes, and I think really this being the main point, the math and ELA are the only classes that meet every day. All the other classes meet every other day, and that's again targeting those things and building systems that will support our math and ELA growth. This ties that at 60 minutes each and every day. So this Bulldog Block math intervention, so we have 233 students currently enrolled. And that was when we built it last year, I think obviously we had good intentions, but we went into this year just a lot more intentional around, so it's all the same period. And so that gives us more flexibility. And if a student has shown the growth that they need, we take them out of that class. So it's not like a class that they're stuck in just to stay stuck in. And so that's another one that, again, just trying to provide more intervention support for our kids. And then new to us this year is we do have an Algebra 1 class, which has been great. And I know just really trying to partner with the high school and how we transition our kids and our kids that are ready and being able to leave our school potentially with Algebra 1 credit already. I think it's been a great opportunity and already seeing kind of some of the motivation as our younger kids are seeing that that's an option and having conversations around that and really what they need to do to get there.
Casey, how many kids have taken Algebra 1?
28. Okay, I was gonna say 26, so maybe 28.
28.
Yeah.
So assuming they all pass, you'll have 28 kids with a credit in Algebra 1. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and we do have some 7th graders in there as well. And so that's something that as so last year we were busing kids over to the high school for algebra. And so going into next year, the possibility of busing kids over for geometry.
Very cool.
Kind of building that up. So
very cool.
Super.
enrichment. And so we talked about the core classes, but really, looking at kind of these pieces that kids want to be and want to show up in. And so we've had art. One of the things that I want to, like, we did not have choir last year. And that's been such an awesome addition. This year we have 22, 23. I think it started with like single digits. And so like just the reality that like we were like, we're gonna have a section of it regardless how many we'll see. And so it's like grown to 22. And I just, Kelly Case, our new teacher, I know she kind of popped over and met some of you, like is incredible in the things that she's doing with their kids. Also new this career technical exploration is our kids love it, and our kids that are not in it are mad that they're not in it. And I think just doing hands-on from cooking to building to just the technical skills that they're building in that class. I was in there the other day and they're saw like using the saw and all that, and so that just has been really fun. Community leadership. I talked about this community 101 grants at one of the meetings, but we're continuing in that the $7,500 grant that we have other businesses right now that are applying that our students will be able to give out, which has been a really cool opportunity for our kids. Part of our TWI program, Ecology and Culture, that our students are taking. We also have the beginning Spanish yearbook, advanced PE. And STEM was new to us this year for in our science classes, where that's a build and elective for our science classes. I mentioned music. So we have 111 kids in band, 23 in our new choir program. And I think like just again, Kelly Case and her just getting her kids involved and doing it. She sent me a video today of her kids playing instruments. You saw down there the students that were doing the color guard. Those were all middle school students, and so like them, they can't compete, and I meant, but they'll participate at games and everything like that. And so just seeing that grow, and our students participating in that. Rogue Valley Symphony has already been on a couple different times working with our students. And this was something that they came to me on, which I'm super excited about. But again, like how we're collaborating cross curricular. And so our CTE class and our general music class, which our sixth graders take, are going to be building instruments together within there. So yeah, cool opportunity there. I was told that many of the teachers probably will be upset because some of the instruments will be loud that they're making, but it'll be fun. Yeah. And then I think like going back to just getting kids involved, like not only clubs, but also just our athletics. Derek and I spent a lot of time together at the beginning of this year because we were posted all of our coaching positions, did a lot of interviews, got some great humans and people in. You can see 150 athletes, 25 of those through sport. And this is really just a shout out to Derek Rodman and him jumping in. And I know he's done the role before, but it's been awesome working with him in this role and us doing some of this work together. These are just some of our different clubs that our students can be a part of and they can participate in. And all of them are well attended, things that they're excited about, a teacher stepping in and taking on some of the advisor roles. And I think, again, just exposing to our kids more, it's not just, sitting in the classroom, but what are those other things that can help build belonging and get them in the door? And a lot of these clubs can be that missing link. So grateful for our different people who stepped into those. I know elementary school talk about family engagement. I'll be very transparent and vulnerable. This is an area that I know I want to work more and I have work to do on. I think like these are just some of the things that, thinking about how we're engaging families right now. But I think it's just like another area of improvement for me as engaging families and thinking about what that looks like. The MTSS, multi-tier system of support, student, and SST is student support team or student study team. I want to shout that out. Allison and I kind of started trying to build a better system last year, and I think thinking about from last year to this year and the meetings that we're having, talking about kids and talking about families and really just kids not falling through the crack. And so their SST, if kids are having a hard time or having a hard time, or a parent might request evaluation for special education, or whatever it might be, we'll send them to the SST team and have intentional conversations with teachers and staff around how to support. And so it just, this year has just felt like we've actually had a system going, which feels really good. ASAP is our after-school academic program. And that's really just after-school tutoring. We do that 3 days a week. And it definitely is thinking about, again, last year to this year, like it's a much better system. We have more kids engaged in it that are getting help and support and getting work from teachers where they can work and get that help. Because it's, I think, and a lot of our families that we'll meet with have just might not know how to help some of the academics and might not be and that's not a judgment, but might not be the best person to help them. And so what are after school opportunities that we can provide for our kids? And so that's one. And then our attendance team, and then we have a new attendance system that the high school and us are using. And that has just been, we have these tools and all that can help do a lot of the work for us. And so whether it's sending out positive postcards because a student is showing up all the time, or they're not showing up and automatically sending those things. And so that's been a huge, I'd say, lift for our team and doing a lot of that work. And then our attendance team, just having intentional conversations around how we're engaging kids and continuing to try to increase that. This is kind of getting towards the end, but really just a thank you to all of you. Like I am thinking about like different ways that like you guys can help and be involved. And I think you guys have been, again, year 2 for me, but way more involved than I'm used to, which has been amazing. But I think like thinking about different, some of the different opportunities or things like that. And I know that like there's many of you that like just check in with me to see how I'm doing, which is like I always appreciate. These are some opportunities that I know like just coming in honestly, like having lunch with kids, helping supervise, like all of those. You already like the presence at events, and then like really like, and I see this in how you guys go about your work, but just champions for our school district. And just doing those things is definitely a huge lift for all of us. And then this is the so if you've not seen Ted Lasso, I recommend it. This video is something that I showed to staff as well. And I think as I'm like was preparing this and like looking at our data and all of that, I just came back to this video. So wanted to show this short clip. And if it doesn't work, man, you know what I want to mess around with? The belief that I'm at, regardless of what I do or don't achieve, or the belief that we all deserve to be loved. Whether we been hurt, maybe we've hurt somebody else. But what about the belief of hope? Yeah, that's what I want to mess with. Believing that things can get better, that I can get better, that we will get better. Believe in yourself, believe in one another. Man, that's fundamental to being alive. So I think I mean, just ending with that again, belief of hope and really just like belief in the school that I believe in. Knowing that we can get better and knowing that we need to get better, and that we have work to do. But I think it's like that's the journey and excitement and struggle and all the things together. So thank you. Any questions? Question?
I have a question. When you do the after school program, so you're talk a little bit about what happens there and how are we getting kids to that or home from that, or how is that?
So transportation is provided for any student that needs it, so to answer that part.
By our bus system, by our, okay.
And I mean, really, how we initially looked at it, I mean, was really kind of support around math, just because so many of our students were struggling in math. And so really kind of teaming up with our math teachers around needing the work and what are the missing things, or like what are the standards that they're missing that we can hit on within that time. And so students come, we feed them, and really it's kind of twofold, where some students will come and it's just kind of like, I would say like independently they're working. And I think for families, it's kind of like, well, they're not going to work at home. So like that gives them kind of that time. But then others, it's just kind of workshop based. So where they're sitting at the table going over work, going over quizzes that they may need to retake, and just trying to kind of, and I think the part about it is getting it sometimes from a different teacher and different perspective. I've seen for some of our kids makes a difference. Yeah, I know that always.
So are you rotating that with the different teachers and staff, or how?
Yeah, not currently. So we have one certified teacher. She's actually our ELD teacher, but she with the math and science background too, which I'm very helpful. And then we have two of our instructional assistants that are there as well.
Or like, how many kids are coming to that?
So that it ranges. I mean, before break, we were like right 18 to 20, and like now we've kind of dwindled back down. But I want to just send. It's kind of, I don't know if it's like a forgotten thing, so I just need to send more communication on it. But I mean, we have, and that's why, because it's not the same kids who will come every day. I think on our that we have like confirmed from family, because we make sure that that happens first. We have like 52 kids that are on our confirmed list, but it just fluctuates of who comes those days. So.
Got a question.
Yeah.
Sports are, which one's a little more popular ones? What are the kids going out for?
Sure. Trying to think. I don't know. Volleyball, that's what came to mind. Yeah.
Cross country.
Yeah. Cross country big. Yeah, volleyball is what first came to mind. And I mean, and I, what's it?
Track probably will be, but
Yeah, in spring. Yeah, and I feel like, and that's something like thinking the last couple of years, I feel like our numbers in my mind should be higher. So that's just something that I'm thinking in all sport, like thinking of basketball, and football and all of that in particular. That was something that surprised me, our numbers, to be honest, when I first came here. And it's still something that, because I just know, again, like just kids being a part of something more, and how important that can be. So that's, I would say, an area that I would love to see our numbers increase, for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
thank you, Casey.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, well.
Thank you. We're getting it.
Good evening.
Good.
Erica and James are passing a couple of things out. I'll give you some instructions around that here shortly.
Congratulations.
All right. As Erica and James are passing out the props, it's okay. You can get your drink. That's allowed. I first just want to ask you to grab the index card that they are giving to you, and you can use the line side or not. And I would just like to ask that you would please just take a second to jot down your thoughts around what equity in education means to you. It could be bullet points, could be sentences, but the prompt is, what does equity in education mean to you? So I'll just give you a few seconds to answer that while Kenyon pulls up the slides. I think there's a clicker, but I'm not talented at these, so. I don't know how to work it.
Try.
Yeah, perfect. And for the sake of time, while you're still jotting down, I can talk a little bit. Don't worry, you're not gonna miss much on my slides, but I'll just move forward a little bit. So while you think about that, I wanted to kind of recap some of the work that has been done up to this point. It's been a year since I've stood in front of you, and I know we have new board members, but I in breaking this down in phases, kind of. So the first phase, is, I would say, probably from 2022 to 2023, we were focused on belonging, stability, and access around all things. And then we moved into phase two, which I would say was probably 2023 until even into this fall, 2025. We were really focused on alignment, systems, and building adult capacity around those systems and that alignment. And now we've kind of entered into this, what I would call phase three of the work that we identified needed to happen when I first came on board. And that, I would say, I'm predicting it happens till 2027, but these things sometimes take longer than I think they do. And we're really going to be focusing on implementation and refinement. That will make more sense as I talk through more of this presentation. So as you know, we have district aligned strategic priorities, especially around attendance and engagement, on-track progress or graduation, on-time graduation, instructional coherence, which is kind of just kind of alluded to in all of these other goals, and then also the just making sure that we're aligned to that strategic plan. So I wanted to first call out one of the things I'm most proud of at Phoenix High School, and I think alumni would also say this is something that they are really proud of, but we have done a phenomenal job, especially over the last several years, of being very intentional about building student engagement, voice, and belonging. Some of the ways we've done that is through student leadership, school spirit, and student choice and ownership of things. I thought about showing you a couple of videos, but instead I just thought I could tell you a little bit about how we've done this super intentionally. So we have invested in growing student leaders beyond just in a student leadership class capacity. A lot of our clubs, a lot of our sports all have leadership programs within those. Our CTE programs have leadership programs within them. So you don't have to necessarily be the ASB elected person to have leadership opportunities. You see this with DECA, you see this with LSU, right? And so because of those opportunities, our students are being able to participate in a variety of networking opportunities. One of the most recent is we were invited by the NAMAS Foundation to do a symposium over at SOU. And it was such an amazing opportunity for our students to connect with college students who are involved in leadership opportunities. They were able to get really targeted instruction on leadership, where sometimes in a high school, a lot of our leadership experience comes from tasks, right? I put on an assembly, but then instead what happened, we were talking about those clear characteristics that we're working on, like the networking, like being vulnerable. And so we really invested in those opportunities. We also have a presence among leaders across the state. We've participated in the OASC conference that happens over in Seaside, and that's where student leaders from the state go. And not only have we gone and attended, but we have presented and had some of the most well-attended sessions in that. And we went from 0 participation in that to just being a huge presence. We have increased participation in clubs, athletics, and activities. This fall, we had about 184 students participate in athletics. Guard and band, we had 32 students. And then we've seen that really continue in our winter. And I'm really proud to boast that our theater program has grown significantly, and we have 23 active students in that group. I know that seems like a low number, but that's coming from like almost single digits sometimes, and a lot of our participants in the past being from ACCS, but now we have a good combo of students from PHS as well. I could go on and on about that, but I'll keep going. If you have questions about that, I'd love to talk to you more about it. Another huge focus, as you all are aware, is on attendance. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of an update of the current state and system responses. As you know, this was an area of growth for us. Since last year, we weren't super proud of where we landed last year. And so we've been very intentional and strategic about how we would fix this. So overall, our attendance is up. Our attendance rate is sitting at 73.36%, which is up about almost 12% from this time last year. You can see a little bit of a breakdown here, but Our student levels have increased in attendance. Ninth grade is up 11.27%, 10th grade is up 6.6%, 11th grade is up 9.27%, and probably the most celebratory is our senior, significant increase of 21.23%. And that's, like I said, these things don't happen. What you pay attention to is what grows. And so we've increased parent communication through, I know Casey mentioned, our new intervention system. We have actually sent 16,993 texts through that program since we launched it in October. And so just that increased one-on-one communication with parents in a way that's super accessible to them. Can't always answer a phone call, but I can like sneak a text, right? Not kids, but adults, right? We've partnered with Southern Oregon ESD to do listening sessions with our students. We were very intentional about that. And this has become our site council focus. We have done a lot of incentives. When you pull into our parking lot, you'll see a punctual pirate parking. All the kids want to park in the staff lot, so we, leveraged that. We have been doing awards. Seniors will get medals and tassels depending on their attendance. So just a lot of trying to honor that being present is super important. Up in the corner of this slide, you'll see a tool called a sextant. If you aren't familiar with that, a sextant is used to navigate the sea. They can calculate a ship's position based on celestial, like stars or the moon and nearby land. And so we have been using data as our sextant this year, and it's kind of the symbol for what we launched into this year. We are using this data to show us where we're at towards our goal. And so because data isn't necessarily feelings-based, it allows us to see what students need, which is a real focus on equity, right? And so we've been doing core reviews. And so quarterly, which is new, we're looking at iReady data from 8th grade, we're looking at IXL, we're looking at grade distribution, all of those things. And so this helps us, and this helps inform our 9th grade on track. As you know, our goal is to have every student at the end of 9th grade having 6 or more credits. Right now, we have 177 students, or we did at the end of first quarter, and we had a 92% on track rate. What we were able to do because of this focus on data was actually figure out what the most failed courses are for 9th grade students, have targeted conversations with teachers to try and figure out, hey, what's happening in this class? How can we help support you to ensure that students are getting where they need to get? Our teachers were phenomenal. That can sometimes be we could sometimes be defensive about that, but they were great. We've also done targeted interventions moving forward. So any students who failed a course, any freshman students who failed a course first quarter were then enrolled in Wednesday school so that we would ensure that they didn't lose credit for second quarter. We do grad coach check-ins. We're already looking at spring break school for credit recovery. We have parent meetings, and then that incentive is that honor roll. It's really the honor roll cookie, and I can give you a sample of those at some point, but you have to put your order in early. Our next on track graduation data point is 12th grade. We want 96% of all students to graduate with a regular or modified diploma within 4 years. We really want 100% of students, let's be right. But at the end of first quarter, we had 150 students in the class of 2026. We were looking at about 91% at that time. We, again, just hit those interventions right away with Wednesday school, already talking about spring break school. Credit retrieval is available to upperclassmen, so we load that up as soon as we can. ASAP is an after-school intervention that students are enrolled in. We're having parent meetings more often to ensure that parents know where they're at, and we're utilizing some of our other credit recovery options, which I'll touch on a little bit more. So at the end of quarter 2 is tomorrow. So we'll have more updated data at that point. But just a little bit of a kind of dipstick of where we're at. So now that we have talked a little bit about the signal or the data point, what are we doing about those things? And I talked specifically about 9th and 12th grade, but I kind of want to talk more systems. What we're doing right now is utilizing all available graduation pathways and supports. So what we did this summer, at the end of last year, we got a little bit of a glimpse of data that we weren't super excited about. And so we went back to what we have been doing and we reevaluated. We wanted to see what credit opportunities exist in the state of Oregon that we might not be utilizing as a high school to ensure that students in Phoenix are getting equitable access to credit options like students are in other schools across the state. And so what we were able to do is to get creative in some of our credit options and give some more options available, make more options available to students through maybe some of our online platforms, maybe utilizing alternative ed if needed. And again, opening conversations with teachers about how credit is awarded in their classes. We're doing this more systematically, so you can see earlier tier 2 intervention thresholds. I'll explain tier 2 and tier 1 here in just a second. And we are having more coordinated intervention structures. Before we were relying more on like, oh, have you seen this kid? What do you think about this? And instead now we're using data, right? And so we're not missing students because we have those systematic approaches and we're really learning those systems. So to jump on something that you've already heard a couple of times, MTSS or multi-tiered systems of support is something we've been focusing on over the last few years at the high school. But because of where we're at in our phases that I explained before, we're able to do this much more strategically. Tier 1 refers to core instruction. It's what is available and accessible to all students. So what do all students get? And we are ensuring that all students are getting the same thing. That's equity, right? So elementary reference did this, the middle school did as well. But our instructional leadership team and school counselors are working really hard to make sure we're all very clear on what that core instruction is. So we're doing that by looking at what is OSAS measuring, right? So what are students being tested on at the state level? Then we are kind of doing a crosswalk with what does our board adopted curriculum cover? And then are there any gaps that we might need to supplement in those things to make sure that students leave PHS ready for their next step? And that's how we're getting clear on what tier 1 core instruction should be. Before it was kind of just whatever the teacher thought in the classroom it should be, right? And tied to some standards, but we're getting very clear about this. Clear is kind. And so then when we are measuring tier 1, we're able to see where are lagging skills to give us that tier 2, which is targeted time-bound supports for students. So those are group interventions like Wednesday school, those might be group sessions, and then that also allows us to do tier 3 intensive supports for qualified students for special services like special education, maybe ELD, possibly 504s. And so again, just getting really clear on what supports are available for what students and also holding staff accountable to what we say we are going to do for all kids, which is equity. A couple of years ago, we got together to talk about what good teaching and learning is, and we came up with our anchors, or how we say we're anchored in learning. These are the 6 things that we focus on. And this year, what we really leaned on is this idea of collective efficacy. Collective efficacy is a shared belief among staff that their combined actions can positively impact student outcomes, exceeding the influence of everything else, right? And so kind of referencing a little bit what Casey said, it's that belief, right? And so this is a principle made popular by John Hattie's research. And so this is helping us focus on creating an instructional playbook at Phoenix High School to ensure that all teachers are using high leverage strategies or strategies that yield the most engagement, the best student outcomes. And so these are some of the focuses that we're working on. Student discourse, or that talk like Shauna and Heather were talking about, that intentional way we're getting students to talk about what they're learning. SIOP strategies are proven, research proven strategies that help, what they're advertised for as students who are learning English, but they're actually best practices for all students. Every teacher at PHS is SIOP trained. That's a promise I make to my staff and to my kids. And then this year we focused on writing across the curriculum. We tell kids, like, we can't open your brain and look at what you know, so you have to talk about it and then write about it. And when they're writing about it, then we are able to articulate better and they're able to articulate what they know. And then checking on what they know formatively. So rather than waiting for the grade to come out, if a student got an F, we're able to do checks across or during the journey so that we can change paths if we need to. So one of the biggest factor, most influential school-based factor in student success is actually teachers. Teachers are the most influential. And so building adult capacity around these systems and these beliefs is a lot of what administrators are tasked with and coaches are tasked with. This is a chart of our instructional coach or our curriculum and engagement specialists jobs at Phoenix High School. And we were a little bit behind the ball in having instructional coaches at the high school, but this is essential work because it's building adult capacity. So you can see student outcomes like data and data protocols, the MTSS system, assessment alignment. I mean, I could talk about each of these things for forever, but this is the work. If we're investing in the adults that are investing in the students, we're going to see those student outcomes. And we've been able to make so much of these systematic shifts because of the work of our instructional coach and that partnership as the instructional leader in the building to partner with her to do that. So what do all these things mean for students? They mean predictability. Students know what they're learning, why they're learning it. They know what support is going to come and that it's going to come earlier, right? We're not doing autopsies, we're doing formative checks. There are clear expectations around what those learnings are and engaging in support. And we're seeing increased student voice and choice because we're investing in student leaders to advocate for their peers and for students to advocate for themselves. So you want the good, the bad, and the ugly, I'll be real with you. What are the ongoing challenges? Adult capacity is challenging, especially coming from PHS where we've had wonderful data. We've been doing great things for kids for years, right? And so it's hard when we've been doing great things for kids for years to feel like we need to make changes. But it's true. We grow when we are constantly evaluating and reflecting. Growth can be really uncomfortable because of that. And systems take time and they take trust. Instead of playing whack-a-mole or trying to do things on our own, we have to trust that the system is going to take us where we need to go. And that can be difficult. And implementation takes a while. So what's next? We're refining these systems. We are having conversations about how this is uncomfortable. And we're working on our alignment. This is the really clear continuation of the last 3 years of work, really leaning on that trust, like, hey, we've built these relationships. That's kind of the benefit of being the administrator, like you've known me for the last 4 years, so we can do this together. And that's really important. What I would ask of you, or what the three of us really would ask of you, is just curiosity. If you're hearing or seeing things that you have questions about, if you can remain curious, give us a call, come on over. Love to have coffee with you, love to show you what magic is happening in classrooms and beyond classrooms, right? And to continue that policy aligned support that you all do so well. Our cell phone journey has been such a great demonstration of that. I really appreciate all of the conversations. Peers, I'm sorry about that, but everyone else, I'm very thankful for those. And just, again, your continued presence is just so supportive. I'm going to read this to you. And if you're looking for a good read, this book is called Ruthless Equity. It's by a man named Ken Williams. It's got some great Facebook presence, but this book is really good. When you close your eyes, I used to do this in my English class. Will you close your eyes? Thank you. When I refer to starting with the crown represents the essential learning outcomes every student must master. The crown identifies that place where all students must go in a particular content area. Teachers hold the crown above the head of their students and grow each student tall enough to wear the crown. Some students will grow to the crown, others will grow through the crown, but we cannot settle for students falling short of wearing the crown. You can open your eyes. I like to think of the crown actually, as a graduation cap. But this is the work that we're doing, is ensuring that we are not moving the position of the crown, but instead we are ensuring that students are growing to and through the crown. And so, if you have any questions about what that looks like, I'm open right now, or we can set a meeting because I could talk for forever. Any questions?
You have such a gift for connecting concepts to work and connecting the concepts to your other beautiful peer colleagues. I mean, that is just such a truly a gift. And Ken Williams actually was a keynote speaker last year at Oregon Association of Latino Administrators. And he is wonderful. I mean, he talks about like being ruthless and believing in teachers and believing in the, you know, when we're talking about adult capacity, I think about the things that he shared at that, and I think people felt really inspired and kind of like it shifted the script. It wasn't about, I mean, he talks about equity, but he uses the example of like a Chick-fil-A. You can go to any Chick-fil-A. You can go to a Chick-fil-A here. You can go to a Chick-fil-A in New York. You can go to a Chick-fil-A in LA. You can go to a Chick-fil-A in Texas. And the reason why the Chick-fil-A's are always successful in all of those places, people could attribute that to place, zip codes, demographics, but he talks about you build and you nurture the people who are doing this work. And that's how you get incredibly successful students. So thank you for reading that. I was just reminded of how good he was when he presented.
Erica gave this book to me after she attended that.
On the subject of adult capacity,
Yes.
I think one of the things that is so important to that work is adults truly understanding the why. And so I wondered if you could briefly speak to just, I know one of the biggest things we talk about in education is having time with our staff to talk about development. And so I wondered, how does it look like for you to communicate the why? And then how do you assess whether or not, the buy-in is there from your staff to build that capacity?
Yeah, I think one culture shift that's happened over the last couple of years is that the Wednesday PD time is so valuable. Actually, I had to tell Jessica, like, Jessica, this PACE guy cannot come to my staff meetings. I'm using every single minute on Wednesdays. But she convinced me that PACE could come, it's a good idea. Right, but that time was, yes. But we are utilizing that time, because it's true, we don't get a lot of time together. And then, we have talked since I have come aboard on clear is kind, and anything that isn't, there's a lot of really good things we can do, right? But, if you do too much, then none of it is good. And so, just getting really clear on what it is we're doing and only dedicating time to that. So one of the things I was just talking about is we're looking at OSAS, right? And board adopted curriculum. And I use the example of like, what, everybody loves a butterfly unit. Like we love to teach about butterflies. We could spend 12 weeks doing it. There's great art projects around it. It's so fun. There's great videos, right? 12 weeks, we could do it. And the truth is, actually the butterfly unit isn't a high school standard. You could probably cover it in 2 lessons. And, like we just need to be real about that. And so it's about having those real conversations. I feel really lucky to have our instructional leadership team to like grapple with those difficult conversations. And it's a give and take, right? Like, okay, well, I might think it takes only 2 periods, but my teacher is building classroom community. So actually, can she have 3 lessons to do it because that activity builds community? So that feedback, and again, to bring up our coach is able to have conversations with staff members in a way that's not evaluative. I can try and be as nice and as possible, but I'm still the boss, right? And so leaning into that relationship with a coach, so then the coach can tell me like, hey, yeah, you put this, on the docket, but people are really feeling this way. So can we, move that? So even though I have the relationship with the leadership team, being able to utilize that coach to adjust those things. Does that answer your question? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking about that, that in between space, we oftentimes, we think in such binary ways oftentimes, right? It can either be this 12 weeks or 2 days. The reality is it's the both and. And I love that you're building these relationships or you're leaning into the relationships of the coach to really think about and discern what is the best way for this. And I love this idea of also giving like the example you're using, like there's so much fruit and even the pieces that don't always get included. So that's, thank you. It's just a lot of process.
I will say too, I think that, the other thing is like, it's okay that if we don't agree, like, right? And so I think it's just the honoring of the relationship, like, even when people are like, yeah, this isn't for me, or, hey, I see the direction you're going, I'm not sure if that's like what I'm here for, we can still honor that relationship, right? Because, yeah, because there are so many good things. So people might decide to invest in another good thing, and that's okay.
It's really wise.
Anything else? Perfect. Thank you all. Thank you for your time. I want to give you opportunity to close us out, Brent. I just want to say the heart for our students is very evident in everything that we heard tonight. And I want to thank you all for that. And the little ways that shows up is really moving to me. Like when we see talking about belief and when we see language, when we talk about students that, you know, students receiving special ed services, they're not sped students. So thank you for your heart for our students and for each other and for another wonderful jab session.
Kaylin, what do you want us to do with these?
Oh,
I'd like you to keep those so that you have the crown and the index card
Thank you.
for your reference.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
There you go.
I don't know if I've arrived yet, but
I got this. Got this.
I'll just wrap it up. And there was a time, actually not too long ago, where we had job meetings that didn't feel connected as a district. And I think what you heard tonight and from these amazing leaders is there's a district strategic plan, and you heard a lot in their job reports. And I'm just proud of this team and feel really grateful for that. It was mentioned about some of the data that is coming out of our new inclusive practices at the K-5. So we're in March, first meeting in March. I think we have Tiffany on the docket.
Thank you.
To share some of that data, which is incredible over a few short months. I think more than we even anticipated on on transitioning to that model. But just thank you to the board for continuing this practice, continuing to listen and show up, continue to ask questions, continue to show up. Just really grateful. Thank you.
Awesome.
I have one last question. How does, like, I love the cohesion with all the 3 elementary schools. I think it's really beautiful, this teamwork, and you model it so beautifully. And then the middle school and the high school, how does the language of like the objectives or the goals or the things that you're aspiring to, how do they translate from one school to the next?
We meet every Tuesday, talk about it. Yeah, we review it. Share all it with that and none of it.
I will also say Javier is not here yet to fly back to Spain to be with his dad for some health challenges, but he's a really big connector in a lot of this as well. In the role he has played, really have kind of the elementary has been the leader in some of all of these systems as far as family engagement, and then MTSS fits a little bit better in elementary, and you have to be a little more creative in the secondary. But those using the same type of language and the same vocabulary, the same systems, is something that we're building. So,
And also, from middle school to high school in particular, I think it's something that Katie learned, and yeah, it's just like want to prioritize more and just in conversations. I mean, we're in a curriculum adoption right now for 6-12 and having conversations around that, and so to just go vision.
I was just thinking of like the interventions, right? Like if we're seeing something at the middle school, how do we make sure that we're providing some sort of intervention from elementary to minimize those pitfalls and then, as we're moving forward. And also like, I think it is a really beautiful system. It takes a lot of work to be able to coordinate all of that, all of those efforts, but I was just curious because I'm in Dayton, and it might have been just my lack of understanding that in the past.
Question. All right, thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Denise?